As today, we're going to be talking about reading off two articles that are in relation to each other. I find to be very interesting and very important. First off, I'm just going to say that both of these articles are brought to us by the BBC, and we will get into reading those in just a minute. Okay, alright. Go ahead and post this here. Hello there, thank you for joining. Yes, I'm playing Farming Simulator in the background, because I kind of feel like it. So, yeah. Alright, so one more. No, I can do that. Okay, well, yeah, so today's topic is again brought to us by the BBC.com, and let's check what this has. I'll say nothing. Right, cool. And the title of the first one is Syria War Strikes on Idlib Target Schools and Hospitals. So the same title as the podcast. And it reads as follows. At least 20 civilians, including 9 children, were killed in Syrian army strikes in the Idlib region on Tuesday, a Syrian human rights monitor said. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said schools and hospitals were among the targets. Regime forces have been fighting a fierce offensive to seize Idlib, the last major territory in Syria still controlled by rebels and jihadists. First off, if I mispronounce anything, I do apologize. About 3 million people are living in desperate conditions in the region. Rami Abdel Raham, head of the observatory, said strikes targeted both the main city, also called Idlib, and the surrounding areas. A schoolchild and 3 teachers, as well as 2 other people, were killed in Idlib city, he said, while at least 6 children were among the 10 civilians killed in Marat Mizran, a town just north of Idlib city. He added that another 4 people, including a mother and her 2 children, died in Benish, northeast of the city. The Union of Medical Care and Relief Organizations, or UOSSM, said 10 schools in total, including 2 nurseries, and the Idlib Central Hospital were hit by airstrikes and ground attacks. The organization called the strikes barbaric. Heba Morayev, again, sorry if I'm mispronouncing anything, I'm pretty sure I am mispronouncing half this article. Amnesty International's Middle East and North Africa Regional Director condemned the strikes, saying schools should be safe places for children to learn and play even in a conflict zone. Targeting schools and kindergartens being used for civilian purposes is a war crime. The current humanitarian crisis in Idlib has been described as the worst since the start of the conflict in 2011. The UN has previously warned that a full-scale battle for Idlib could result in a bloodbath. Last week, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for an immediate ceasefire. Why Idlib? Idlib is the last stronghold of the rebel and jihadist fighters who have been trying to overthrow Syrian President Bashar al-Assad since 2011. The opposition once controlled large parts of the country, but the Syrian army has retaken most of the territory over the past 5 years with help of Russian air power and Iran-backed militiamen. Now the army wants to liberate Idlib. In recent years, an influx of displaced people has doubled its population to about 3 million, including 1 million children. Turkey, which backs the opposition to President Assad and fears another massive influx of Syrian refugees, has deployed troops to observation posts in Idlib under an agreement with Russia that set up a de-escalation zone, the 2018 Sochi Accord. However, it has failed to stop the Syrian army retaking large parts of the province with the help of Russian airstrikes and Iran-backed militiamen. So, before I read the next article, I'm just going to give my opinions on this article. And not like the article, the writing itself, but what it said. So, I mean, the fact that they did air, you really shouldn't be. Oh, sorry, hey, Daniel, okay, thanks for joining. Join the chat. Yeah, no, don't worry about that. That's alright. Not sure how you did that, but alright. So, yeah, the fact that they were attacking schools and hospitals, I mean, that's just, like, with airstrikes, that's kind of like I mean, really, you shouldn't be going in, if it's a last stronghold, and I'm not just saying this just because it's a terrorist organization, which I will get into that in the next article, which, spoiler alert, by the way, but if any, military type or militia type organization, if it's the last stronghold, that's going to be where the last of them were held up at. And I mean, I'm guessing that's where, as they took back the territories of Syria, took back Syria, I'm going to guess that they didn't get all of the people in those, mini strongholds and little mini operating bases and all that. Because I'm pretty sure that at least a few people would have kept falling back, and retreated, and so the numbers that were originally in Idlib, or however you pronounce that, I do apologize for botching that up, but they're going to have grown because people are going to have, retreated back to that area, and that's just the same as with pretty much any battle, any war, is, when you take over territories, people are going to, retreat, and they start getting overpowered, they're going to go back to where there's going to be more people, and they're, especially with the last stronghold, they're going to build up defenses. And so, really your best bet to take a place like that is definitely not airstrikes. I mean, jeez. I mean, like, boots on the ground, okay, yeah, that's what you're going to need, but, I mean, for the last stronghold of terrorist organizations are pretty much, you know what, I'll get that opinion in a minute, because I can actually, speak more and actually use more, use more words, as you'll see, versus me trying to kind of hide this a little bit here. So the next article is again on BBC.com, and it is titled "Syria War: Why Does the Battle for Idlib Matter?" Or Idlib, or Idlib. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce that. And again, I do really apologize for mispronouncing that. I'm doing my best. Yeah. A humanitarian catastrophe is unfolding in the northwestern Syria, where the government of President Bashar al-Assad is trying to recapture the opposition-held province of Idlib. Government airstrikes and ground operations have driven almost 1 million civilians from their homes since December, the biggest single displacement of Syria's 9-year war. The UN has said a full-scale battle for Idlib could result in a bloodbath. So what's so important about Idlib? The province, along with parts of Hama, Latakia, and Aleppo, is the last stronghold of the rebel and jihadist groups that have been trying to overthrow President Assad since 2011. The opposition once controlled large parts of the country, but the Syrian army has retaken most of the territory over the past 5 years with the help of Russian air power and Iran-backed militiamen. And now the army wants to liberate Idlib. Rebels and jihadists seized control of the city of Idlib in 2015. Idlib is also strategically important to the government. It borders Turkey to the north and straddles highways running south from the city of Aleppo to the capital Damascus, and west to the Mediterranean city of Latakia. Who controls the province? Idlib has been controlled by a number of rival factions rather than a single group since it fell to the opposition in 2015, but the dominant force is the Al-Qaeda-linked jihadist alliance, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS. HTS was set up in 2017 by a group that broke off formal ties with Al-Qaeda. It is designated as a terrorist organization by the United Nations. In January 2019, so a little over a year ago, HTS staged a violent takeover of large areas of the province. It expelled some rebel fighters to Aleppo's Afrin region, which is controlled by factions supported by Turkey. A UN committee estimated in January that the group had between 12,000 and 15,000 fighters in Idlib and its surrounding areas. In the battle against the government offensive, it is supported by a variety of forces, including Chinese Uyghur militias, a new Al-Qaeda affiliate, and Islamist groups fighting under the banner of the Turkey-backed Syrian National Army. The Islamic State group, or IS, has several hundred fighters in Idlib, but other factions actively oppose its presence. What led to the current government offensive? Idlib has been subject to a de-escalation agreement between Turkey, Russia, and Iran since May 2017, and called for the cessation of hostilities in 4 opposition strongholds, including Idlib, the separation of jihadists and mainstream rebels inside them, and unhindered aid deliveries. That October, Turkey deployed troops to observation posts on the opposition-held side of the front line in Idlib to monitor the agreement. Russian troops did the same on the government side. However, the presence did not stop the Syrian army retaking a large part of eastern Idlib's countryside over the next 4 months. The government then turned its attention to opposition bastions further south, notably Homs province, and the eastern Ghouta near the capital Damascus. All those were recaptured by July 2018, devastating residential areas, killing hundreds of civilians and displaced hundreds of thousands. Many opposition supporters were evacuated to Idlib as part of the negotiated surrenders. Troops then began preparing for an all-out assault on Idlib, but one was averted in September 2018 by an agreement between Turkey and Russia. The Sochi Accord called for a demilitarized buffer zone along the front line. Mainstream rebels were required to pull their heavy weapons out of the zone, and jihadists were told to withdraw altogether. However, it was never fully implemented. Rebels reportedly withdrew some heavy weapons, but the jihadists stayed. HTS's takeover of Idlib a year ago was followed by renewed fighting. Government and Russian warplanes stepped up strikes on opposition-held areas, while jihadists shelled government-held territory. In April 2019, the army launched what Russia called a limited offensive in northern Hama and southern Idlib. The UN said 500 civilians were killed and 400,000 displaced over the next 4 months before a ceasefire was declared. So 500 civilians were killed in 4 months. A further 900,000 civilians, the vast majority of them women and children, have fled since the current government assault began in December, according to the United Nations. Some 300,000 have been displaced in February alone. The Syrian army has recaptured major towns in southern Idlib and regained control of the Aleppo-Latakia M4 and Aleppo-Damascus M5 highways. Those displaced have meanwhile moved north and west to the ever-shrinking space considered safe near the Turkish border. Turkey, which already hosts 3.6 million Syrian refugees and is worried about an influx, has given the Syrian army until the end of February to withdraw behind the line of Turkish observation posts or face military action. Turkey has already sent thousands of reinforcements to Idlib, and there have been deadly clashes between Syrian and Turkish forces. But President Assad has vowed to continue the offensive to bring the opposition enclave back under his control. What is happening to the civilians? UN Emergency Relief Coordinator Mark Lowcock warned that the crisis in North Syria had reached a horrifying new level. The displaced civilians are traumatized and forced to sleep outside in freezing temperatures because camps are full. Babies and small children are dying because of the cold, he said. Mr. Lowcock described the violence as indiscriminate, with health facilities, schools, mosques, and markets being hit. Humanitarian workers themselves are being displaced and killed, he added. The UN is calling urgently for tents, thermal blankets, and clothing, as well as specialist counseling to help deal with trauma. Mr. Lowcock said the biggest humanitarian horror story of the 21st century would only be avoided if those countries with influence in Syria brokered a ceasefire. Last year, he warned that an all-out assault on Idlib could result in the loss of huge numbers of people, running into hundreds of thousands, possibly even more. Now, like I was saying, any group, especially a terrorist, known terrorist organization group, especially one that was linked to Al-Qaeda, the only reason that they broke off with Al-Qaeda, I am sure, is because, as you should know by now, the leader of Al-Qaeda, the ex-leader of Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, was killed many years ago, and that's when Al-Qaeda pretty much ceased to exist. I mean, I'm sure they still exist, but they're not as present anymore, which it is good. I'm very glad, very happy they're not nearly as present as they used to be. But unfortunately, there are still terrorist organizations out there. But so that's. But basically, shortly after bin Laden was killed, people kind of broke off and started their own terrorist organizations. That's why ISIS is so dominant. That's why you never really hear of Al-Qaeda anymore. I mean, that's the first mention I've heard of Al-Qaeda in the news in years. I mean, it's probably at least a decade, I think. A long time. So, definitely a good thing that Al-Qaeda is no longer present, but that's why, these, and honestly, they've actually gotten, I hate to say this, but they've gotten smarter on how they go about and terrorize people, and how they go about killing people. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. I mean, they've gotten a lot smarter on how they do it, because, I mean, they had to, because with the unfortunate events of 9/11, I'm sure the U.S. and I'm sure many other countries as well have improved their security, security policies, and how people come in and out, and how they protect people from terrorist events. But unfortunately, there is no 100% guaranteed protection until they're all annihilated. And that's just fact. I mean, which, I'm glad that they were going, and honestly, I'm in favor of the Syrian government, and I think the Turkish government should help them. They're not in some way ready. Should attack Idlib and get and try and finish off the HTS, but they should not go in there airstriking schools and hospitals. If they, they should do some reconnaissance, and honestly, if they don't have the technology to, then if the Russians and the Syrians and Turkish and and anybody else is helping them, the Iranians, because I think Turkey should help them. I mean, really, come on. But if they all can't come up with the technology together or some way to gather intel, on where these people are located, I mean, keep them pinned in, yeah, but don't start bombing the city and the surrounding areas just because there might be a few terrorists there, because, like has already been shown, that's how you end up with civilian casualties, which is not what any war should be about. I mean, when countries fight the terrorists and the bad guys that are terrorizing these people, that are killing the civilians because they just, quite frankly, they just don't care. It's kind of obvious that if you're gonna kill a civilian, you don't care. If you're gonna kill kids, you don't care. That's these terrorist organizations do, is they don't care, and they just kill people. So they should find a way to, which I mean, it's too late now because they've already started the offensive, the attack on Idlib. But what they should have done is they should have found a way to sneak, get some intelligence on where the people are at, where the least guarded areas are, and try and sneak some of the people in disguised as civilians. And then, once they get enough to strike an offensive, they should strike with some of the bigger buildings or smaller buildings, and just try and do it with this without bombing schools and hospitals. Now, if there's a guy even if there's 100 people in a school where there are children and and other civilians, you shouldn't just go full blast bombing them. I mean, you should go in there with boots on the ground, gain some intelligence best you can first, and then and then you're going to be a lot less likely to kill them yourself. Now, yeah, granted, they might kill the kids, but they're going to kill the kids regardless. I mean, really, they're terrorist organizations, so you don't expect them to, they're not known for caring about anybody but themselves. It's unfortunate, but it's true. So, I'm glad they've gotten them to just a few small areas, that they've taken back a good part of their country. That's great. But I think Turkey needs to stop worrying about fighting with Syria and just be like, hey, you guys want to come over? Let's create a little deal where you can come over. You're not taking our land, but we'll let you use our land to help you fight these jihadists. I think that's the problem with the countries that are fighting each other, is we could end the war on terrorism so much faster if instead of fighting each other because this guy wants to come step on our land to kill terrorists, why don't you say, hey, you know what, come on over, we'll help you out, we'll we'll provide you with what we can, and let's come together and let's actually take out these terrorists. Now, unfortunately, there are going to be civilian casualties in any war on terrorism. That's how it's going to be. But in reality, there's going to be a lot less civilian casualties in war on terrorism than if we let terrorism just live on. Because that's what these organizations are about, are just going in and killing innocent people. I don't know exactly what's in their heads, but it's clear from history tells us, and I mean, come on. So that's my opinion on it. What's your opinion? Maybe we'll find a way to help these people out. I'll see if I can find a charity that'll help provide the thermal blankets and all that. Which honestly, I think that, like I said, if Turkey were to get together with these people, with Syria and Russia and all that, because if Russia would use, instead of using the jets to bomb the places, I think what they need to do is they need to find a way to land. I think they need to find a way to land a plane wherever they can, even if it's a small personal jet, and just fly these people to a much safer area, it's a much warmer area, and so they're not sitting there in the cold. But that's my opinion on what they should do. I'm not there, so I can't really speak for, oh yeah, this is what they should do. But that's my opinion. That's how I would handle it. I know easier said than done. But I feel like that'd be the best approach, is instead of just putting them in a cold area. If they're a refugee, yeah, they're coming from something hot. But I mean, really shouldn't be. The countries really shouldn't be fighting. Turkey should not be trying to fight Syria. I get they don't want, there's a whole border issue. But honestly, you can worry about the border issue once the war on terrorism is over. I mean, I'm pretty sure Syria just wants their land back, and they want the terrorist organization to be gone. I don't think they really want the whole land of Turkey. I mean, yeah, they probably want some territory, but honestly, I mean, it's really not worth fighting over a little bit of land when there's so much more that needs to be stopped. There's a much bigger issue that's out there. That that many governments are trying to fight, and then because we, cause like I said, we can't be as effective on the war on terrorism if we're fighting with each other. And that's honestly how terrorism is still around for so long, how it's been so active, is because we're just we're fighting them, but we're also distracted a little bit by fighting us. So by fighting each other. So that's my opinion on it. You can like it, you can not like it, doesn't matter to me, but I would love to know your opinions. Please go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. And don't forget to join the official DOIJ podcast server by clicking on the second link in the description. I highly recommend you joining us over there, as you will then be notified as new things are coming out to the podcast. We have something very exciting that we haven't announced over there actually just yesterday. So go ahead and join to see that, and the announcements will be second up from today's podcast announcement. If you want to join DOIJ, which is the best PS4 RP server, I can't say for Xbox or 5M, as I don't have an Xbox or a gaming computer. But it is definitely the best on PS4. And you can take my word for that, as I have been in over 100 PS4 GTA 5 RP communities. So with that said, if you want to join that, that'll be the 5th link in the description. We have a PS4, Xbox One, and 5M or PC GTA 5 roleplay. We also have PS4 and Xbox One Red Dead Redemption 2 roleplay. So I highly recommend you clicking on the 5th link there. And I've got some reports that it does not work. I'm working on getting a new link to that, to the interview server. It is to the interview server. It will not be a link to the immediate server, but that is how we are such a good roleplay server. Is because if you join an RP server that does not have an interview server and then a training server, it's not going to be a good server. I speak from personal experience. Best servers that I have joined were ones that had an interview server and then a training server. So definitely worth what the wait may be. It took me a few months. I finally got in. I love it. So definitely a good time. So again, I highly recommend joining it. Again, 5th link in the description. This has been today's podcast. Thank you all so much for joining. Subscribe, turn on the notification bell. If you want to donate, go ahead and click on the first link in the description. I'll be hopefully doing another charity stream, hopefully by the end of the week. I hope doing a DOIJ RP stream later today, if not tomorrow. But I know I promised a video, but I'm not going to go into all the details. But that was due to little mess ups on my end, and recording wise. They are not coming this week. I'll have to re-record them and try and get them out next week. There you have it. Stay tuned, stay awesome, subscribe, turn on the notification bell as mentioned before. If you want to join the official DOIJ podcast server, second link in the description. You want to donate, click on the first link in the description. And if you want to join DOIJ, click on the 5th link in the description. Thank you all so much for listening in, and we will catch you later.